Hello, this is the start of a new series about Mercury through the houses, and I thought we'd just talk about Mercury a little bit first and get to know what it actually indicates. So, in the natural zodiac, Mercury rules uh, third house and sixth house, Gemini and Virgo. So they're both of them are actually dual houses. One is air sign, Gemini. The other one is an earth sign, which is Virgo. So they're both very, very important houses. They're both upachaya houses, which means they're big time, and once you start working with them, they start to get better. And this is really very much indicative of what Mercury is, because Sun is the king, Moon is the queen, and this is their son, their child. So there is, wherever we have in our charts Mercury, we are slightly immature about it, because obviously this is about young children, kids, youth, adolescents, students. So this is all very much about the process of growing and things in wherever. Then once we apply ourselves, things get better. So there is a naivety about the house that Mercury resides in our chart. So I thought we'd just have a look and just see, what kind of things are indications for Mercury. So Mercury is obviously communication, because it rules the third house of natural zodiac. So you're born in the first, in the second one, obviously you're with family, you start to speak. And then third house is you start to move, express yourself, communicate what your needs are. So it's very much about self-expression, and you start using your hands and gestures. So as a baby, you see that they know what it is to say goodbye. They just, if they don't like something, they can use their hands and just like push the food away if they don't want to. So it's very much about like learning to let the others how you are feeling, and that actually never leaves you. And we know, all of us in life, that people who have the most fulfilling lives and relationships are the people who can actually express themselves fully, let the people know they kind of know, they know their own boundaries. They just know how, when things doesn't sound right, they can just communicate it. And those are friends and family members that we respect most, because we know that if they don't want to do anything, they can't be persuaded really, and they know themselves, they know their mind. Sometimes they're a little bit willful, but nonetheless, though, it's not a bad thing. So it actually rules Mercury rules friends, siblings, communication, any form of communication, rules the arts, rules things like intellect. I think Sun is intelligence and Mars is logic, but Mercury is practical and intellectual, and that's, I think, one of the things that Sage Gemini says about the sixth house, is that it's an important sign of the zodiac, because it's like literally how you get by day to day, how you manage yourself, manage your life, manage your money. Without a good Mercury, people can hoard, people can't, they just cannot, they become like victims of their own weakness, if you like, in relationships, in jobs, etc., where they can't express themselves, and people think that they're okay with the status quo, and then there's just misunderstanding going on there. So it is a very, very important thing. But obviously, both third and sixth house, there are upachaya houses, so they do get better with time. But generally speaking, because it rules friends, neighbors, siblings, and your colleagues as well, so it's literally is how we kind of interact with people, friendships, associates, those kind of things are all very mercurial things. Mercury rules currency, stock exchange, stock market. It any kind of work which is paperwork, like clerical work, learning, students, schools, any form of travel, moving around, exercise, being active, being out and about, hobbies and interests. I mean, it's such an important planet. Jobs to do with computer as well, so any form of technology, mobile phones, computers, satellite dishes, anything like that is all to do with graphic design, marketing, visual arts generally, things you make with your hands, any form of talents and skills, courses that you do to learn things that then they can apply to your life. All of those are to do with your third house, which is all to do with Mercury. So Mercury is siblings, and obviously in the third house, it's also your will and your bravery as well, because this is when you've been born, you start to talk, then you start to express yourself, and you start to become brave. This is probably the time when your brother or sister, younger or older brother and sister, they come and take your toy away, and you have to fight for your toy, because this is like, no, this is mine. So you have to be brave and tell the person no, set boundaries and allow them, or if they do something wrong, you kind of brave it and say, don't do it, don't touch my toy, don't eat my sweets, things like that. So it's that kind of thing as well. It says also it rules fast food, because it's a fast moving planet, and so this is when you meet up with friends, go for a cafe, go to their coffee shop, have a coffee, and maybe an express sort of food like sandwiches and pizza. All those sort of takeaway foods, fast foods, are all ruled by Mercury. So, and it's obviously travel, but short distance travel is ruled by Mercury. And so this is the reason why when you're actually working, because Mercury likes to be busy, and is curious as a planet. So when you actually get really stuck on a project, it's really good to start moving. Just go for a short walk or make yourself a drink and just move around a little bit, and that kind of helps Mercury, develop things. It's strong in the first house, so it gets directional strength in the first house. But it also means that in the first house there is things that needs to be developed, because wherever Mercury is in our chart, that's where we are a little bit young about it, a bit naive and immature maybe even about it, because we don't really, it's a young thing, it's a young planet, and it needs to develop over time, and things just get better with time. However, in the first house, it will always have that real focus. From there, it will be aspecting your seventh house, so it indicates that you want to be with somebody, because Mercury also rules games and having fun, doing fun things, comedy, being comedic, jokes, things like that. So it likes a bit of banter. And so when it's aspect in the seventh house, you want to be with somebody who maybe was your friend, you can be friendly with, you can chat to, you can have a laugh with, and do like fun things together, like go to dance classes together, or you go to, I don't know, go to walking groups, or just kind of interact, go to the cinema together, travel together quite a lot. They like that. They like somebody who's active. They go maybe to hikes and go skiing together and things like that. So these will be very important to them. And it also rules kind of interaction in terms of business and commerce. It's all ruled by by Mercury as well. Mercury does make the person, particularly if it's strong in their chart, multi-talented, because they want to know a little bit about everything. And you find that when you have Mercury Dasha or Mahadasha, as Mahadasha or the Subdasha, Antardasha, you actually get interested in all forms of different things. If it falls like in your, because it's data and information, and particularly if it falls in your 8th house during a Dasha, you want to do research to gain more information. You're just hungry for information. And it rules as a planet, obviously 3rd house rules your hands, your arms and shoulders, and in the 6th house rules your digestive system. And so, and the Mercury in the first house or anything like that will actually, you also kind of notice that he has got third and sixth house indications as well, but obviously in different houses that house indications will come into it as well. So Mercury does really well obviously in Gemini because it rules Gemini, and it also rules Virgo. Virgo is not just own house, but at 15 degrees is actually also the exaltation degree of Mercury. And from 15 to 20 degrees, it's actually, I probably say the rest of it, it's like more Trachona sign, which means like the head office of very comfortable there. And it also is debilitated in Pisces. And obviously, you know, Mercury is friendly with the Sun, Venus and Saturn and Rahu, Ketu. But it very much struggles with Jupiter and also with Mars. These are the two planets that are not good with for Mercury. Mercury does, if it is close to Saturn, it will have issues because obviously it means that it develops even later. There's a shyness about it, has difficulty expressing itself, and there's always like, particularly because it is also a planet that's it's an earthy planet, even though it rules an air sign and an earth sign, but generally speaking it is an earthy sign. It likes material things, and so when it is in earthy signs, it can have a jealousy issue as well, because it is the green-eyed thing as well, you know, because it's immature about things, so it can have like those things as well. So so generally speaking though, if it is in an earthy sign or in earthy planet nakshatras, person has got to really work in order to move forward, not to actually be hung up on what other people have or what other people did, and actually just free themselves of all that and then just move themselves forward. Because when you work with Mercury really well, Mercury gives you a lot of things in life because it's a fun planet, and why wouldn't you want to have all the fun in your life? So, and obviously this is going to be about a sort of like a Mercury that's not in conjunction or aspected by any planets. I'm just going to give you the purest form, and it naturally also rules the skin and rules respiratory system and also your nervous system and allergies. So you often find when it is either in transit or in a dasha, or if in your chart naturally is actually in, say, in Jupiter sign or in Mars signs. In Mars, it will give you inflammation of the skin, so you have to really kind of, as with anything, it gets better with time. You know, because Mars is impulsive, and obviously this is Mercury's planet of speech, so it can give you reactive, impulsive speech. You say things without thinking, because that's what Mars does. You know, sort of agitates Mercury, and that can happen with conjunction, aspect, or Mercury sitting in Mars's sign. So that can happen. That can happen the opposite as well if Mars is in Mercury signs too. When it is with Jupiter, or in Jupiter nakshatras, or in Jupiter signs, or Jupiter also in Mercury signs, they're opposites, and they really are very different agenda. So Mercury is a bit gossipy, and it's a little bit fickle because it's a planet of fast moving. It's young, and obviously, you know, Jupiter is wisdom, the wise one, the older one, you know. So and so there is like a gender issue there. So that can also, because also what happens with Jupiter expands everything as well. So you'll find that the person who has that, they can't stop talking. And sometimes even if it's happening in, like, say, for example, in transit, you can't help yourself but just like over talking. It's such a chatty, or if Rahu does the same thing, expands like the speech, but not in a bad way. But with Jupiter it does, because Jupiter just can't stop it, because it expands it. And Jupiter can be a little bit like what's the Jupiter is a little bit like I know best kind of thing. So it gives that kind of it projects that onto Mercury as well, so things come out like that. And sometimes it creates problems with the nervous system. And obviously because Jupiter rules liver, we can actually start having liver issues. So we have to be careful about those kind of things. Be just working on our planets, because remember, our planets are us. It's how we. So once you can actually work with wisdom with everything. But I really do think it's a wonderful, wonderful way to use your chart really well to your advantage. So. Obviously, because it rules your respiratory system, some of the remedies with Mercury are really easy. So I think Mercury always does better if you got afflicted Mercury, is to always be aware that you need to exercise, you need to be active, and you need to spend time with friends and cousins as well, because six houses, cousins and aunts and things like that. So. And you just want to be like, so do connect with people, do join groups if they are interested in cooking, do a cooking class, carpentry, things like that, because they can be very multi-talented. And it really does you good to do some breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, things like that, but particularly breathing, just learning to breathe. And because it rules the respiratory system, and that really, the oxygenation really helps your digestive system, because it rules the digestive system. And normally Mercury, sixth house Mercury has got issues, but if it's or sixth house or Mercury, or it gives you digestive issues. So you can have all those things like candida and Crohn's disease and things like that can occur because of that. So by oxygenating and slowing things down, it can really help. Just taking, using the best in best things in life. So just wanted to say also, so wherever Mercury is, it will also aspect 7 houses away only. That's the only time. And so what will happen is those areas of your life, you do well to share them with friends. And it kind of, because it's also a benefic planet, it really helps kind of have an approach with it that that things will improve. Mercury is the only planet that changes its nature according to the planets that it sits with. So if it's conjunct malefics like Rahu, Ketu, Sun, Mars or Saturn, it does become malefic. And also, so its nature can be a little bit negative. And also the other thing I wanted to say was that it's I only take 8 degrees away from the sun as a combustion, because it's a planet that is friendly with the sun and travels with the sun and Venus normally. So therefore, it can actually work really, really well with the sun, as long as within 8 degrees. Obviously, if it's retrograde, then you have to really kind of take maybe 10 degrees. But generally speaking, it does work okay with the sun. It gives good intelligence as long as both of them are ruling good houses for you. But yeah, so the house that they're in, they're definitely going to be, if it is on its own, then it's going to be really good. So anyway, that's about Mercury. Thank you. So Mercury in the 2nd house, and as you know, Mercury rules the natural 3rd and 6th house of the zodiac, and it's now gone into the 2nd house. So 2nd house of the natural zodiac being Aries, 2nd house will be Taurus, and this obviously is our face and our speech, and also our neck as well. So the natural placement of second house, obviously a bit different for different people, and this, what I'm giving you, is for a Mercury that's not afflicted, and it hasn't got any conjunctions or aspects that are malefic. So second house is obviously our immediate family, our speech, how much we value ourselves, money and savings that we have, family money, family values, food that we like to eat, our family values as well as our own. I don't know if I mentioned that already. The vocabulary that we use, also the family education that we get too. So this will be also, as it is our speech, and it's the third house of the natural zodiac, is ruled by Mercury. So when Mercury comes into the second house, it has got the connotations of Mercury in Taurus, in a sense. And it's a very friendly sign to, obviously with yours you have to kind of blend everything together, because obviously Mercury, if it was to be in, say, Sagittarius or Scorpio, will be completely different, because obviously it depends how friendly it is. And as you know, Mercury is friendly with the Sun, Venus and Saturn, and also works quite well with, best with Rahu, but works quite well with Ketu, but it's very unfriendly towards Jupiter and Mars. So those houses of those two planets will be a bit difficult for Mercury. So anyway, so when this Mercury goes into the second house, it's the planet of speech naturally, and also it's the third house of the natural zodiac is ruled by it. So for you, it might be that it rules a different house, but it will give really good singing voice as well. So this will be somebody who's really chatty and has really good skills of communications. Many singers have this Mercury in the third house. And obviously, depending on the sign, they could be either like a rap singer, hip hop singer, or they could be like Frank's, I think Frank Sinatra has that, I'm not really sure. But I know I did a video for my patrons, and I did Billy Connolly, who is like a comedian, and he has Mercury in the third house. He's a Virgo ascendant, but is in Mars sign. So he is also, he's got a very Mercurial voice, because even for his age, it's quite a youngish voice, and it's quite a playful way, the way his speech is. But because it's also in Mars sign, he can be, naughty words and everything can be used. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, these things. So obviously this is, Mercury is also the skills that we have, how we navigate through. It's such an important planet, really. I always think that people should always work on Mercury, because as much as Moon is very important, Mercury is really the intelligence that we have to get ourselves success in life, anyway. So also it's a planet of self-expression, so they express themselves through their words. And because Venus and Mercury are friendly towards each other, so when this, Mercury comes in what would be like the second natural house of the zodiac, it brings together Mercury and Venus, and it can be somebody quite cultured, and the family can be cultured as well. So that kind of connotations is as well. So they're very good at actually, they're quite intelligently, their speech is quite intelligent. So they also, obviously Mercury gives you life skills, but it also is very good at actually using those assets and skills for implementing it through different facets of your life too. And the other thing is, you also got to remember that Moon is exalted in the second house, so it has that as well. So it's somebody who is very expressive about their homeland. They love their country. They are very close to their mother. You know, they love to eat mother's food, that kind of thing. You know, they're quite, you know, they're proud of their culture, generally speaking, if it hasn't got any bad aspects. They're artistic. You know, they use words to express how they feel, so they can be very, very good songwriters. And so there's this sense of pride about their homeland and things like that. They also like very luxurious food. That's what they like to eat. You know, this is obviously becomes where Moon is exalted and Venus's house, really, in a sense. So there's quite a lot of nice things going on there. And these people obviously can have the family. Obviously, if it's good condition, family can have good family money. They're very good with money, and it's because natural second house of the zodiac is a fixed sign. So when a fixed sign becomes like your second house, you're good at keeping money, saving money. They're very good at looking after their capital. They could also be working in the banking sector or in finance, things like that. And you know, I try not to. I don't really know very much about investments and things. I don't particularly like things like that. But so I don't really like things like that. So for me, you know, it's. But I think these because Moon is exalted there. It could be that they have like silver things, like silver plated cutlery. They kind of like silver service, you know, like. And they could have things like that in their family heirloom things. It's obviously if they also have afflictions there, like say if Mercury ends up in Mars' sign or Jupiter sign as well, that affliction can create like speech impediments as well, like stammering or Tourette's, something like that. And it also, obviously, from there is also aspecting, because you always have to blend it, because obviously if it rules like 8th house and it's gone into the second house, you know, everything will be different. If it's your 11th house ruler, actually, in any ways in your chart, for if Mercury rules that and goes into the second house, it creates a really good Dana yoga for you. So, you know, everything is different. If it's the 10th house ruler, goes into the second house, you earn money through your work, things like that. So anyway, from the second house, Mercury is now aspecting 8th house. So 8th house is in your in-laws. So they'll be very friendly, chatty, communicative family. And it's also sudden changes to your wealth as well. So and this will be Mercury aspect. You remember Mercury is the only planet that does extremely well in the 8th house because it's got just that wonderful intelligence to navigate itself through. So when it aspects it, it kind of blesses the 8th house. So these people will be very, very good at the occults. They just get it, you know, like I honestly, I do astrology, but I'm not very good at all the astrological or the mathematics of it. I'm not really that good at that. And So I don't have that, you know, I don't have my Mercury's in the 10th house. It's not aspecting, it's got no aspect to the 8th house. But so, they get that. They get this sort of calculations and everything. So it just means that they could also become like an accountant, or they use an accountant for their business. It could be a tax, or they could be tax accountants, or deal with inheritance and insurance and all those kind of things that are like, I think in Britain we call it probates and things like that, where somebody passes and they deal with the money and all that kind of stuff. So that could be something that they do. And so they also invest in hidden things. You know, they will be really good at research. So they would do their work very meticulously, particularly if it's in good condition, and they will be able to then invest money in things that they've researched. So, you know, that kind of risk taking will very much depend I just think that if your ascendant is not strong, if your 5th house and 12th house are not strong, stay away from investments really, because if you got like your 12th house ruler, if it's debilitated or any afflictions to your 12th house, you could then lose money, because that is like, you know, so, and also that applies to every dasha that you're in as well, and also your transits. So I'm not very good at things like that, you know, but I know some people are very, very meticulous and they watch things. And if you have that level of intelligence, happy days. But they definitely do their research on how to make extra money. They could have hidden savings actually as well. So they could be, well, they could have particularly, you know, certain Anuradha and also Jyeshta as well. They could have undisclosed money stashed away, sort of thing. It could also be that it really is blesses your inheritance as well. So that kind of thing. But generally speaking, this is my take on Mercury in the 2nd house. It does give, you know, it also gives a very Mercury being a young planet. It's kind of curious and very. It's a young planet, you know. It's like slight maturity about it, naivety kind of thing. So it does get better with time, because it naturally rules the 2 Upachaya houses, 3rd and 6th house of the natural zodiac. Gets better with time, but because of that, they could have a very, however old they are, they will have this very young voice. You know, they never sound like their age. You know, as people age, their voice box changes and their muscles in their throat, and they can have this different. Their speech sort of matures. As does their voice. But when you have this, then you have this youthful voice, so you can continue singing if you're a singer, and you maintain that voice for a long time, unless if you have a dasha or a transit that changes things. But yeah, so anyway, that's all from me. Have a good day. I'll see you soon. Thank you.